Hey kids, do you enjoy aggravating conversations? Well, you're in luck because this video is about Matt Slick.
Okay, well, no, we avoid faith in science. So,
What?
with
What?
yes,
What? What? What?
yes,
You avoid
absolutely.
faith in
Faith
science?
is the most
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
dishonest
That's
position
not
it is
true.
possible to have. Science works directly opposite of faith. You either base your beliefs on evidence, or if you don't have evidence, then you base your beliefs on faith. But I don't base beliefs on faith. I base my beliefs on evidence. So, with
So
regard to
one second. Uh, Science avoids faith.
Apologists will often argue that science is based on faith by defining faith so broadly that it includes inductive inferences, which is clearly not the kind of faith the Bible describes.
So
well,
I'm trying to.
your point was that science uses faith. I've had this argument absolutely every single apologist I've ever met, and they've always been wrong. I'm sorry if I can just predict that that's what's going to happen. And it's never going to be true. It doesn't matter how many times apologists say that scientists have faith in science. No, that's not true. That is a misrepresentation.
But I haven't said anything yet about it, have I?
Okay.
So you have faith that the laws of logic will work and always work?
Nope. I believe the laws of logic work because I don't understand what it would even mean for them to not work. The laws of logic describe what assertions we can understand and what assertions we can't. We can't understand contradictory statements. We can't understand how a thing can be not identical to itself. The reason I reject the assertion that the laws of logic may stop working one day is not because I have faith that they will always work. I reject this assertion because I don't understand what it would even mean for the laws of logic to stop working.
Wrong. You're misdefining faith.
Wait a minute.
If you look at the definition of faith.
Hold on a second. Hold on. If you're the one who's not a man of faith, but I am, and you're going to tell me how to define faith, then maybe that's, a misappropriation of our respective categories. I understand what science is, and science is based on a measure of faith. You have to presuppose the validity of the laws of logic.
You don't have to presuppose the validity of the laws of logic because the laws of logic are what define validity. Saying that you have to presuppose the validity of the laws of logic is like saying you have to presuppose that a bachelor is an unmarried male. You don't have to presuppose the truth of any proposition that's true by definition.
You have to presuppose the uniformity of nature.
No, you don't have to presuppose the uniformity of nature. The uniformity of nature is inferred from the fact that we observe it. We infer it from experience. That's post-supposing, not presupposing.
Yes, you do. You cannot use the scientific method to validate either one. And don't tell me you can. You beg the question. You beg the question when you assume the uniformity of nature. You assume its uniformity, and then you base a scientific method on the uniformity. But you cannot test it via the scientific method and establish its truth.
We can't test the prediction that nature will be uniform forever, but we don't need to predict that it will be uniform forever. For all practical purposes, we only need to predict that it will be true in all times and places that have consequences for human experience. That prediction is testable.
You make these faith assertions all the time. That's my point.
Assertions. I don't ever make faith because I'm not just an atheist.
Wait a minute. You don't ever. You're so self-refuting. You don't ever make faith assertions.
That's right. Because I'm not just.
That's right. There's a faith assertion.
I'm not just an atheist. I'm also an epistemist. Now, an epistemist is one who rejects faith as being the most dishonest position it is possible to have. And it doesn't matter what source you look at to look it up. If you compare different definitions from scriptural references, from hymns, from sermons of theologians past and present, so forth, you're going to get a consensus definition. There is a second definition that exists only in a dictionary, which is a secure confidence in a person, place, or thing, and the value or the trustworthiness of that thing. But that definition appears only in the dictionary. It doesn't appear in the religious references. In the religious references, faith is a belief that you assume. It's a secure conviction that is assumed without reason and defended against all reason. I don't have that.
That's not what faith is.
See, this is the shit I was talking about. Apologists define faith more broadly than the Bible does.
Yeah, I know. And faith also requires apologetics. Science doesn't. Apologetics is making up.
Yes, you are. You're doing apologetics right now.
Right. Apologetics is a practice devised.
Aaron, you are a walking contradiction.
I'm sorry if you don't understand this, but no, that's of course not the case.
Yes, I do understand. You're making lots of logic mistakes. Okay. And you talk so fast, you don't want them disclosed. You're making all these statements. Faith is the most honest.
None of it is based on faith. And regardless how fast or slow I say this, science does not rely on faith.
Yes, it does. You have
Absolutely.
faith that the universe is always going to be the same way.
Again, inductive inference is not the fucking same as religious faith. Apologists often bring up the problem of induction as though induction and religious faith are the same thing, or as though one is no more or less reliable than the other. It's true that the fact that we've seen some things behaving uniformly doesn't prove that they will always behave that way, but if you infer that they will, you are drawing an inference from empirical data. The kind of faith that Aaron says the Bible describes is not an inference drawn from empirical data. Inferring from empirical data at least appears to consistently work, while believing in something without data and in spite of data does not consistently work. That's the important distinction. It is possible that inductively inferring from evidence is not really effective and simply produces an illusion of efficacy. The problem with the biblical variety of faith, which is belief that is not based in evidence and which is often held in spite of evidence, is that it gives us no consistent efficacy at all. It doesn't even give us a consistent illusion of efficacy.
Creationists and other form of apologists always refer to the lies of equivocation and projection, wherein they want to argue that science is based on faith. Somehow they have to create the illusion of an equal playing field. And they can only do this by asserting that somehow science is religious and that religion is somehow scientific. And so the first step of that is to try to assert or push faith onto those who will not share that label or that practice. And I try to give demonstrations of how we don't. Now, we have evidence that the laws of physics have been constant so far as we can detect up to this point. That's evidence, that's not faith.